Hey, hey, hey. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another MMA Breakdown podcast. And this is September 14th. So my thing is today is we're going to talk about the return of the great BJ Penn at 145 pounds. He's going to be taking on a guy who beat him twice at 155 pounds and beat him once for the title and killed the reign of BJ Penn. BJ Penn never looked the same after he lost twice to Frankie, Edgar. But this is going to be, I think, BJ's first fight at 145. Are you guys excited? And it's going to be, they're both coaches on The Ultimate Fighter. And if BJ comes in the way he did the last time he fought, like when he fought against Diego Sanchez, with real great in shape, very great vicious striking, and very great cardio, this dude is a killer. I still think he needs to go train with the Diaz brothers. They'll get his ass in shape. There's a time and place when BJ used to only train like 2 hours a day, like 3 times a week, and never took his fighting serious. He's one of those dudes who rely on purely the ability and not like someone like a George St-Pierre who works their ass off to get where they are. So if he worked as hard as like a Nick Diaz, a Nate Diaz, I honestly think this dude would be real beastly. But BJ Penn to come back, like BJ Penn said, he hasn't been beat up, or he hasn't been knocked out or knocked down. Knocked down or knocked out. He's only been punched in the face a few times. He has a hell of a chin. No one's really dominated him other than St-Pierre. St-Pierre is the only one who made the corner throw in the towel and say it's enough. But do I want to see BJ back? Yeah, I guess you could say I could see him coming back. And if he wins this fight against Frankie, then I could say, okay, he's back. But if he loses this fight against Frankie, then I don't know what more they can offer this guy. He can't make 135 because this dude's a 170 pound dude. That's the way he walks around at. But yeah, I think BJ will do pretty good. I don't know how great he will do at 145 because I've never seen him fight at that weight class, but he needs to get his cardio, and I know he's not quicker than Frankie, because that's how Frankie beat him before, by being a lot quicker and just scoring points, because that's what Frankie's good at. Is he's a round winner, not a finisher in my mind. So BJ needs to start quick and come out swinging like he did against Diego Sanchez. When he fought Diego, he almost had Diego knocked out in the first round. So let me know what you guys think. Do you think BJ at 145 is a great look for BJ? And do you guys still want to see Nick Diaz fight in the UFC? Because it says Nick Diaz obviously is still on the UFC roster. Dana White said on Thursday to Fox Sports Google Hangout, he's still an active fighter. He's in the UFC, but as far as I know, he's just not interested in fighting right now. Diaz has competed just once thus far in 2013, losing to UFC welterweight champion George St-Pierre, which George St-Pierre didn't really dominate him. He just basically took him down and really didn't dominate him and like try to finish him. And would you guys want to see him back fighting somebody in the UFC? It's like Dana White says, this dude, it says, when Nick finally fought GSP, Nick Diaz made some money. So Nick Diaz has some money to kick back, Dana White said. He can probably take as long as he wants till he fights again. You're fighting, and here's a quote, which I believe this quote, you're fighting to make a living. You're fighting to pay your bills. You're fighting to get things that you want out of life. With the money that Nick Diaz made in this last fight, I'm sure he's got everything he wants. Like he did. He opened up his own fight promotion, which I'm not sure how successful it was, but I watched it. It was a decent fight card when they fought in the ring, and It could be true. He's just living off his money right now, chilling. You know, he always trains because he's a martial artist. He trains and he always does those triathlons. So the dude's always in shape. And I can see you've been fighting for what, 10 years, and there's a point when you're like, well, maybe I should take time off and just think about what I want to do with my life. But will he ever return to the UFC? I don't know. And everybody's always wondering, how come a Floyd Money Mayweather fight gets way more attention than a UFC fight? That's my honest thing, because when you have UFC fights, I think maybe it's because you have UFC fights sometimes 2, 3, 4 times a month, and you might have a Floyd Money Mayweather, which is equivalent to the Mike Tyson days in the 1990s, where when he would fight, you would build up so much hype. And back in those days, and especially when Floyd Money Mayweather fights, he's 41 wins and like no losses or something. I'm not sure what his record is, but the dude is just a complete beast. He's like the Anderson Silva of the boxing world. When Anderson Silva fights, people get excited. It's like when Chuck Liddell used to fight, people got excited. But I don't know. You think? It's like when you go against Anderson Silva, you can't. You always say, well, Anderson Silva's gonna win. So, do you guys think the UFC will ever be as popular as Floyd Money Mayweather fights? I don't know if you guys know who I'm talking about. Matthew Riddle. I think he was on the Ultimate Fighter show, and he fought on the prelims a lot, and he fought on and he was getting like paid about $150,000 a year. That's how much he was making from the UFC. So if he fought like 3 times a year, he was making about $52,000 a fight, and he got cut by the UFC because he was smoking marijuana and he couldn't pass a drug test. Okay. And it says, UFC President Dana White responds to allegations that Matt Riddle made recently following his dispute to retire from the sport of mixed martial arts on Wednesday. And basically what Matthew Riddle said is, he doesn't want to have to get punched in the face and end up being a retard later in life. So he's going to go out and get a regular job. And Dana White also says, well, Matthew Riddle said the reason why he smokes weed is so he doesn't beat up his family. If that's the truth, if Matthew Riddle really said that, that's crazy. And like Dana White says, where is he going to make the same amount of money at a regular 9-to-5 job? It's highly unlikely you're going to be making $50,000 a paycheck. That's impossible. So more than likely, this dude's just going to go work at like a warehouse or whatever skills he has, and bring in about $30,000 a year. Maybe he might be more happy, maybe he won't. But he went to some other organization after he left the UFC, and they basically said, we don't have any fights for you until January. And like the UFC, like Dana White said, the UFC makes fighters fight at least 3 times a year unless you're injured. And a lot of these bozo promotions that are small companies, they don't care when you fight. You can fight 1 time a year. They don't care. But do you think it's stupid? He basically saying he's retired from mixed martial arts because he doesn't want to get punched in the head anymore, and he can make money elsewhere. I don't think you're going to make money elsewhere as much as you would in the UFC. Bigfoot Silva versus Mark Hunt will headline UFC Fight Night 33 on December 7th in Australia. I don't know, man. Mark Hunt, I don't know if he can knock out Bigfoot Silva, because Bigfoot Silva has more skill set. They're both kind of slow. I mean, it's going to be in Mark's backyard, but just from what I see, I'm going to have to say Bigfoot Silva for the win. That's all I got to say about that fight. And yes, I talked to you guys the other day about Frank Mir fighting Alice Overeem was a possible fight. That fight's going to happen at UFC 167, the same card that GSP, I hope, loses to Johnny Hendricks. And what do you guys think of Dominick Cruz? He hasn't fought in 2 years, and they still call him the champion, and they still rank him as a top top 10 in their rankings. I think he's not even in the top 10 anymore because it's him versus Barone. What's his name? Renan Barão. Renan Barão, I think, deserves the title shot, and he has the interim title. And Renan Barão should be the champion because I guarantee you when Dominick Cruz comes back, because he hasn't fought in 2 years. Yes, you could say he's been training a little bit, but training and actually being in a real fight is something totally different. So I think Renan Barão is going to light this dude up and beat him. Is it going to be beat him because there's ring rust? Probably. Renan Barão is like on a 30-fight win streak and hasn't lost in 8 years. This dude is a beast. Renan Barão may have been the interim champion in the UFC's bantamweight title, but as the months drag on, Dominick Cruz has been out for a while. It's going to be 2 years now. Barão said on UFC 165 press call, "No disrespect to him, but from the moment I won this belt, I have defended it once, and I consider myself the champion." I consider him a champion, but that's my honest opinion. What do you guys think? Do you think Renan Barão versus Dominick Cruz would be a great fight? Dominick Cruz was a great fighter and had like 19 wins, 1 loss, or something like that, but I don't know, man. He's been out for 2 years, and they should just strip him of the belt. That's the honest truth. What are you going to do? Well, he's not coming back till 2015 or 14. Give other fighters a chance to win the fucking belt. My God. So with that being said, we're fading out the MMA Breakdown Podcast. See you guys soon. Bye-bye.